Streaming is on.
Do you have any concerns or objections?
No. I think no. I don't have any objection.
You understand what needs to happen by February 17th? Otherwise, you would not get paid anymore, right? The whole team is responsible for doing this.
Yeah, the one for 17 where we have a deadline for the upfront pay stop.
Yes, but do you understand the work that needs to happen between now and then?
Between now and 17th.
Yeah. So is that a no, Moth, or what? What do you think? Moth, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, I'm asking you a question, but you are not responding.
Okay, what according to me, how I understand it, is that where we have the upfront pay stop is that it is that is the time where all the tasks that are there should be should all the work should be completed on or before this date.
No.
Yeah.
So we're not expecting all the work to get done and completed by February 17th. This is the deadline for doing the update on the management of the work.
Okay.
So managers are not responsible to do the work. Managers are
Yes.
responsible for telling us what the current status is. Do you understand why that's important?
Yes.
Why? Why would it be important for the managers not to be responsible for the work?
Because with them, the manager is reporting the status of work. So whether the work or the responsibility has been done or still not worked on, the duty there is to is to give an information of the status, how far, or the status of work, let's say like that.
Yeah. So in terms of like anyone doing work, the problem with the status updates is that it's always biased, right? So if you're doing the work and
Yes.
you are presenting your own work, you're going to present your own work in the best light possible, right? So if you're working on the taxes or something, you're going to want to tell the team like, oh, I did really good work on the taxes, and you should keep me in the budget, and I'm doing really good, and I'm a good worker, right? That's how everybody wants to portray themselves, right? So the reason why managers are not responsible for doing the work is we want the managers to report back what's actually happening, not the perception of what the worker wants to hear, which is that, oh, the work is moving along really well and everything's going great, right? Because that's what everybody wants everyone else to perceive to the team. That's basically the normal reaction. So the manager is not responsible for actually doing the work, because we want the manager to actually report what's happening, even if it's a bad status update. So bad status updates have no relation to the manager, right? The manager is reporting a bad status update. They're doing a good job if that's the current status. That's all we care about, is that the current status is being updated. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
You can see right now we have lots of red and a little bit of orange and one or two yellow. So we're not in good place right now. Right? So the status updates are very, very bad. The work is not getting done. We have a lot of problems going on. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. All right. So I can see, Alberto, you're working I think it's Alberto, is working on the scheduling and timeline and everything. So I just want to make sure that, none, it wouldn't be the correct word, but it would be like, we are choosing to not schedule this, right? It's not a priority, so we're not scheduling it. Otherwise, there needs to be something scheduling moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, and I think it would be good to divide scheduling from timeline. Like timeline, you mean like when we think the work is gonna be ready, right?
No, I mean, like, if there's nothing being worked on, then there's no timeline because it's not happening, right? So it's like the timeline might be, okay, we have a scheduled session for March 24th or whatever. I don't know. You don't actually have the session here.
No, I
Two
said by
times a week is not good enough for me. I would want to know. I would want to know, what is the session? When is the session happening? The actual schedule of the session, and what the work is being done. Like, what part of the timeline are you in? What responsibility are you working on? What process? Like, where are you in the process? Right. That's the timeline. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
This is the status. The status.
This is better. I can put the date. February 10, 11.
So is this, if it's a one-time scheduled session, that's fine. If you're scheduling for every week, then write that as well, right?
Yeah, we want to have two sessions per week.
Okay, but that's not the update, right? Saying that you want to have something scheduled has nothing to do with actually scheduling in the actual time.
Yeah,
Okay?
correct. Yeah, absolutely. We don't have a
Right.
schedule
Anyway,
regularly.
the goal is to get that all updated by the 17th. So I think we can move on for now. So you're ready to move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I'm ready. I just didn't understand what should I write instead of none if there's nothing scheduled.
Again, it's all about intention. So it would be, we have chosen to intentionally not prioritize this priority this 2 weeks, and so therefore we're not scheduling, right? Otherwise, the work has not been completed yet, and we have upfront pay stop. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, but what should I write if there's no scheduling happening for that? There's no schedule.
That means that the work hasn't been done yet, and we have upfront pay stop. So the work that needs to get done is a decision needs to be made, either one, to schedule and get the work moving forward, and then the status update is on the schedule and what has been moved forward, or two, that a decision has been made that we are choosing not to do the work because we are not prioritizing this, and instead we're working on other priorities, and so therefore there is no schedule, right? But if neither of those things have happened, then the management hasn't been done and the work has not been completed, and therefore we go on upfront pay stop. You see what I'm saying? So the blank is upfront pay stop. Upfront pay stop. You see what I'm trying to say here? Okay, it's blank. It's not none. The update is that we're going on upfront pay stop. You get it?
Yeah, if they have an upfront pay stop.
We have the upfront pay stop on February 17th.
Yeah, but I mean, but I mean, I don't understand. I mean, the manager is he responsible that there should be a schedule happening or no? Why would you go? I mean, I'm reporting that there's no schedule. Why is upfront pay stop if I report that there's no schedule?
Because the work that the expectation of the managers is that the managers are coordinating, planning, making sure the next steps and assignments and scheduling is happening. That's what managers are needing to do to move the work forward, right? So the management team is responsible for a lot more than just a single manager. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. So, but I mean, still, the upfront pay stop is to make a status update, right? Let's say I'm the manager for let's take whatever. I'm the manager for the deadlines updates. Great, okay, and I'm not doing nothing. I'm not managing nothing. I'm not showing up. Nothing happening, right? The deadline comes, another team, because this is a team responsibility, another team worker updates on this that there's no managing going on. But if there's no managing going on, it doesn't mean that it's still the update of the status. It doesn't mean that we're going to upfront pay stop. If this is a very different thing that needs to be happening instead of a status update, right? This is work, so we should either pass a new upfront pay stop. But I mean,
well, let's take a look at the actual proposal then, if we want to review this and understand the expectations. Because for me, the purpose of this policy is to make sure the work is moving forward and to make sure that as a team we're actually getting professional, because otherwise it's not professional, right? Because like we're not doing the work, we're in a terrible status, and the purpose of wanting to do this is to improve the status and get the work moving forward, which requires scheduling and actual work, right? So the idea that the management team would have no oversight on the scheduling and implementation of getting the work moving forward doesn't make any sense to me. So if we want to look at the original proposal, we can, and we can understand that. But again, this is not a normal status update. This is the management team status update, right? We're getting the management teams responsible for updating the status and coordinating all of the sub managers, right? Does that make sense?
yeah, it does make sense. But
So
I cannot go into upfront pay stop is if a manager it's not meeting expectations. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I can be responsible.
It's the management team, right? The management team and the core team is responsible for making sure that the team is managed and scheduling. Otherwise, we should not have a budget and no one should be getting paid. If people are not willing to do the work, which is that we are scheduling and actually doing work as managers and as a core team, then people should not be getting paid, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on this, Jay. I'm just saying that.
So let's
that
look
we
at
we should pass other than this is something that in my point of view it's a new policy that we can pass, right? That's more has more.
We can just update the previous policy if it wasn't done clearly. So let's see what the policy is and was. This is why we have decision making. And we can see what it says. All right, here it is. I found it.
Found it already. I couldn't find it.
So I'm putting on line 70. The line 70 says the proposal is to require maintenance status reports on work priorities from the team every 2 weeks and then 72 hours before the executive status report, which is the new and full moons to prevent upfront pay stop. This is a simple status update from the managers, not about how the work happens. This is a team effort that we all agree that all priorities have correct status updates to prevent upfront pay stops. All status updates need to be verified. No work output or deliverables required. Just status updates. We can include that no work happened over the 2 weeks. So, I mean, I think that we would want to clarify this if we want to add it in, but wait, we'll check policy doesn't change this and who see, it's the management team's core team. Policy does not change based on who is required to check it. This is the responsibility of the team, the management team, and core team. This is a management team responsibility, and there's no work.
Joyce, can you mute yourself, please?
There's something. Okay.
All right, so there's no work output or deliverables required, right? So for me, it says no work output or deliverables required, right? What we want is we want the status update. So for me, the idea of the status updates having the work schedule and timeline as part of the status update seems to me as a reasonable request for the executive, right? That the managers should be required to give a status update on the work schedule and timeline as part of the status update, because that has nothing to do with output nor deliverables.
I agree with you.
About the work schedule and timeline being included as part of the status update, right? That's the status update is work, right? To do the status update, you have to do work, right? And so we're saying that part of that work is communicating with the managers, finding out the current priorities, understanding where the current status is, understanding what the details are and the next steps are, and then also making sure that we have clarity on the schedule and the timeline moving forward and who's working on the work, right? That seems like a perfectly valid thing. It has nothing to do with output nor deliverables. And if you're not doing that, then you're not doing the status update.
Yeah, I perfectly agree with you on that. But if I do that, right, when I do that, right, I talk to the managers, I find out, I research everything, and my status update is that there's no schedule, no timeline. That's the status update. Why would I go into upfront pay stop?
Because
that's a different thing.
Team, you're telling the management team that no schedule has been done, so there is an issue, right? What I'm saying is that
exactly this status report. What I see, this status report, we need it constantly. We need the upfront pay stop on this status because we can immediately see, okay, here there is an issue. We need to change the manager. We need to talk to the worker. So this gives us immediately an idea. Okay, here we're having a big issue. This is what I mean. But if you want to put an upfront pay stop for work that needs to happen, or there must be a schedule, there must be a timeline. I mean, the status update is there is no timeline, there's no scheduling. All right, so we know immediately. We see this and we say immediately, okay, here there's big problems. Well, there's no scheduling happening. Who's the manager? Let's talk to him. Let's see what's going on.
Well, no, but but what you're missing here is that there's two completely different types of not scheduling, right? So the proposal to not schedule and not move any work forward on recruitment, right? So if we approve this, yes, consensus, then the status update is that there is no schedule and there is no timeline and there's no work moving forward. That's the status update, right? And then the status update is completed and then there is no upfront pay stop. What I'm saying is that is a required management team decision that needs to be made. If that decision has not been made, then there's no status. Because you're saying, oh, there's no schedule and no timeline, there's nothing happening because no one even prioritized it at all. That's not a status. That is just everyone shitting on the work and not being professional. You see the difference?
Yeah, but I mean, the status that I report, right, it would be this. Nobody's prioritizing, nobody's giving a shit. Nobody should be on the payroll. And this is my status. This is my status report. I'm reporting the status. It's making sure that there is a scheduling happening and timeline happening. And
that would not be different. The management status update. That would be an update from the worker raising an issue to the management team, right? So the management team is saying, okay, there's no schedule, no timeline, and no one's even reviewing the status, then this needs to immediately be escalated to the management team because the management team needs to address it, right? And then the management team is addressing and making a decision about the management relationship to the schedule and timeline for implementing the work. And then they're reporting this status update is reported to the executive, right? The executive team is not the management team. Right, so the executive team is not dealing with the issues related to the scheduling and the timeline. That is done by the management team. So it's part of the management process to make sure that the scheduling and timeline has moved forward as part of the updates. And so basically what that would mean is if the management team chooses to not schedule, not have the timeline, and not have their work move forward, that's perfectly fine, but then that's a decision that is made. And then the status update is that, okay, there's no timeline, there's no work, everything is being held off for now. And again, it's not about Alberto and it's not about any one individual. This is an assignment to the management team and the core team, not an individual worker. Do you see the difference?
Yeah, so it's a teamwork.
So you're talking about the scheduling and timeline about the management, not about the work.
The managers are making sure that there is a schedule and a timeline moving forward for making sure the work is happening. But again, there's no work outputs and there's no work deliverables, right? As being scheduled has nothing to do with doing work.
Yeah, but I cannot force people. I'm the manager. I cannot force people to schedule. If
Yes, exactly.
as a manager, I'm trying to move forward the schedule, but the workers don't
So
schedule to move on. Well, I'm going to
where-
report that workers don't give a shit, and their status is nothing is happening. What can I do?
correct. And then, but who does have the power to force people to schedule?
The tactical ops.
No, the policies. And the policies state that if you refuse to
policies,
take your management seriously, then you don't get paid. That's the upfront pay stop.
Yeah, correct. But it's not. I mean, it's not the upfront pay stop for the status report. The status report has met upfront pay stop, and thanks to the status report, we are addressing a problem. And if people are not scheduling, they're going to go into individual upfront pay stop, and we're going to address the situation, right?
But this isn't about the individual; it's about the team. You can I think you're mistaking. Like, okay, when we do manager training and we assign managers work to do, they have individual upfront pay stop duties and individual responsibilities. This is not that. This responsibility is assigned to the team. The team management and core team, it's not assigned to any individual. No individual is responsible for doing the status update. In fact, nobody can even control it. So let's say you're the manager of the tactical ops deadline updates, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Alberto updates the team. Oh, the details is that it's perfect. We did all the status updates. All the deadlines are perfect. Everything has been updated perfectly. It's 100%. Oh my God, it's so good. If the team doesn't agree with you, that's not the update. You do not control the update. The update is controlled by the management team. The management team has to agree on what the update is. So if they don't agree with you as the manager and we say, no, actually, the status is bad, you only completed half of the work and the other half still needs to be done, and that's what the current status update, we're still missing half of the deadlines. Even if you say that it's 100%, if the team says, no, you're wrong, it's at 50%, what goes in the status update is the team update, not the individual update. When you're updating the executive. Does that make sense?
It makes perfectly sense, right?
So again, it's not about the individual or the individual worker, the individual manager. It's about the management team updating the executive team on the current status, including what the status is of the scheduling and the timeline for the actual priorities. And if there's no schedule, that's perfectly fine. But if there's no schedule, then that's required to be intentional. If there is no schedule because no one gives a shit about the work, upfront pay stop. Woohoo! Got it?
Yeah, but it's a different upfront pay stop. It's not the upfront pay stop of the status report. That's what I'm saying.
To do this to make sure that the scheduling happening.
Yeah, but this is a different upfront pay stop. I will put the upfront statement. It's different than the status report. All right. So let's go back to the example about Alberto with the tactical ops. Right. The management team, I understood very well. This is a management team responsibility. I got it. It needs to have an agreement from the team about the status of the single priorities. So it's the single manager that's managing the priority, the work. He cannot. So let's say Alberto comes, the management team goes to Alberto. Say, Alberto, you're the manager for the deadlines, the tactical deadlines. So how is that going? Tell us. And I say, oh, everything's great. We're 100%. Blah, blah, blah. Then we review and we see, okay, it's the opposite. It's 0%. So the team agrees that what's going on with the tactical deadlines, it's nothing, zero. Nothing is happening. So this is the status that I'm going to give. Nothing is happening. Alberto is saying that everything is happening, but we check, nothing happened. This is the status. So I give the status, all right? And then, of course, it's then from the status, it's the management team with the new status. But I mean, that's over. That's the first part of the work is over. The status has been created. We all have agreement on the status. We do executive verification of the status, and that's over. Now we have this status, and as management team, we're gonna try to improve where it's not working. And if still it's not gonna work, yeah, upfront pay stop, but it's different upfront pay stop. It's not the upfront pay stop of the status report. That's what I'm saying. That's how I understand it. Of course, if there is no scheduling, no work happening, we're going to go on upfront pay stop.
But if there's no work and there's no scheduling happening, and that's the intention, then there's no upfront pay stop because that's the status, right? So again, the status does not matter whether or not there is scheduling happening. We don't care whether there's scheduling happening or not. What we care is that whatever is happening is managed by the management team and is intentional. That's why it's a status update, because the update to the executive team is either there's no scheduling happening at all, and it's not a priority, or there is scheduling and this is the schedule and these are the timeline priorities, right? So it's a status update because the executive team doesn't care whether it's being scheduled or not. What the executive team cares is that the management team is taking it seriously. That's the whole point. So if every time you say, oh, it's not scheduled because no one gives a shit and no one's taking it seriously, that's why you have an upfront pay stop. So your example is exactly the reason why we need the status update, right? Because every time you say the reason why someone isn't scheduling is because they don't care.
Right. For me, this would be another proposal because
I'll propose it right
it's another proposal. This would be if from the status update we see that there's no scheduling happening, nothing is happening, automatically we go into upfront pay stop. But it's something that's originated from the status update, right? So we can say new upfront pay stop deadline. When the status update is finalized, is verified, is communicated to the team, those priorities that are I don't know, we decide the criteria. There's no scheduling, no timeline, nothing being managed. It's not happening automatically. There is, I don't know, 1 week for the management team to take it serious and improve the situation, and at least provide proof that the scheduling it's being tried to move forward, and there's some how do you say that the management team is trying to improve the situation. If still the management team after the status report and after this 1 week hasn't done shit about it, then we go into upfront pay stop because the scheduling is not happening. But if the scheduling is happening or is not happening, to me, has nothing to do with the status report. The status report is right. The scheduling is not happening.
What is supposed to happen during that week?
During the week, exactly. If nothing is happening, the manager will say upfront pay stop, right? So all the priorities that are going to be with the scheduling upfront pay stop.
What do you have a week to do?
Do we have 1 week for the management team to take the situation seriously and try to improve it by at least have the scheduling moving forward? If by a week we need to do
the scheduling is required?
Yes.
No, the whole management, the outcome that we said before. Primary management is making sure coordination, planning, steps, assignment, and scheduling is happening. If after 1 week for these priorities that are going to be reported as upfront pay stop, for their priorities that are going to reported in the status report as upfront pay stop, because we can see that nothing is happening. If we have a week to make sure that making sure that coordination, planning, steps, assignment, and scheduling is happening for that priority. Otherwise, we go in upfront pay stop. But this is a different policy.
So does that require scheduling or not?
Yes.
It requires scheduling for sure, yeah, and scheduling is happening.
Okay. So that's the difference between my proposal and your proposal. So let's say option 1, this is line 100. Proposal to include the scheduling status updates in the 2-week management status updates. Manager required to update the status executive status on the scheduling and timeline. This does not require scheduling, right? It only requires intention on you know, not having a schedule, right? So in
not
your
intention. I agree. It's not intention. Agreement that the management team agrees that okay, the status for this, even though Alberto as manager is saying that everything's perfect, everything's going on, we can obviously see that Alberto is lying, and we as a team agree that the status that we're going to give to the executive is nothing is happening. So not the intention. It's like requires.
that's what's already exists in the existing proposal, that like Alberto does not control the status of line 31 for the deadline updates. That already, if the team does not agree with you, there's already we can override you. That's already existing in the proposal. I'm only talking about the scheduling.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, yeah.
I don't care about
if there's
percentage
no
up.
scheduling, there's intention, of course. If there's no, you're right. If there's no intention.
And so in your proposal, that if nothing is happening, then you have 1 week for the management team to take it seriously moving forward, including the scheduling. That scheduling is required.
Yes, it's required. Everything here that in yellow, everything that is in yellow is required.
Yeah. So for me,
Yes.
none of that is required. Right. In the model that I have, there's no requirement for any coordination moving forward, nor is there planning that needs to happen, nor are there steps that need to be happening, nor is there need to be assignment, and nor does there have to be any scheduling if that's the intention of the management. If the management does not want any of that happening, that's perfectly fine. And then that's the update. Right. But what's not okay is for there to be no intention and still have no schedule and have nothing moving forward. If that is not the intention, that's not okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we cannot force the scheduling to happen, but at least there must be intention. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, this proposal on line 93, proposal do not schedule, not move any work forward on recruitment. Consensus. That takes 10 seconds, right? Maybe it takes less than a minute, right? But it's like the idea that the management team can't spend 1 minute to actually agree and have, on Discord that we all agree that there's not supposed to be anything moving forward on this. That's perfectly fine. But the idea is that it needs to be intentional when you're like, I don't want the management updating the executive team on a bunch of hooey booey, right? It's like if you are not moving anything forward and you're not scheduling anything, then there's a reason for that. Otherwise, it's not a status update. It's just a bunch of gobbledygook.
Yeah, I have perfectly agreement with what you're saying. Yes.
So I would just propose option 1 as making sure we include scheduling the status updates. If it's not clear right now, and then we would update. This is updating line 70, right? This would be in the actually line 70, so that it is clear, right? So we're just updating the proposal from last week to include scheduling in the details.
Yeah, perfect, Jay. Thank you. It's clear now.
So is there any questions about this proposal to include scheduling in the details of the status updates for the 2-week management update status updates? Any questions?
No questions from me. Joyce? Wait. Joyce, any questions from you?
I was answering, I was on mute. No questions.
Moth, any questions? Do you understand?
No.
Okay. Any concerns? No concern for me. Joyce?
Moth, do you have any concerns?
No questions. No concerns.
I have a concern because I'm not sure that Joyce and Moth are understanding what is
Is that a concern, or that just sounds like a process point? So let's just take the time to hear them. So Joyce, can you explain your understanding of the proposal?
Yeah, I understand that for the status update in the every 2 weeks, that you will include scheduling in the details for the status update.
And what if there's nothing been scheduled? Then what?
If nothing is what's that? If nothing is scheduled, then what But again, if nothing is scheduled.
If nothing is scheduled, what do you do? What is the team going to do if nothing is scheduled for a particular priority responsibility? Or
Like you understand, Joyce, why Jay has, if you go back to the list, line 14, right? This is an example of, no, this is like how the status update report it's looking for, right? We need to update this table, right? And do you understand why Jay has included into cell I-14 up from pay stop under scheduling and timeline?
I-14.
Yeah, I-14. I'm there right now.
I-14.
Yeah, he wants to know if somebody's scheduling and what's happening on those schedules.
Yes, and what if there's no schedule and nobody's scheduling, nothing is happening?
If nothing is happening, then the manager will report to Jay that there is no scheduling and there's no work happening.
Who reports to the executive?
The
Jay,
management.
the management team, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, but there's one other step, right? Because again, this is not the work. This is the management of the scheduling. So there's one other step. If there's nothing scheduled and there's nothing happening, what do the managers do before reporting the status?
Before reporting the status, he must. What will he do?
This is the example is line 93.
90.
Proposal.
Okay. Not schedule.
Any work forward.
Okay.
Recruitment.
So there must be an agreement on the team, right? Is it correct?
Correct.
That not to schedule.
Yeah, exactly. So if the management doesn't want to schedule, it's perfectly fine. And then you update the executive, we're not scheduling.
Okay.
Right? But if the team doesn't agree to that, the team feels that there should be a schedule, then the management work hasn't been completed yet. And so then you go on upfront pay stop. So you have to take either the 5 minutes to actually schedule the session and move the work forward, or the 5 minutes to not schedule the session. Either way, it shouldn't be longer than a few minutes, right? And then you report the status to the executive on either there is a schedule or there's not a schedule. Because you can only schedule so much, right? You can't schedule everything. We have 19 priorities and we only have 2 weeks. So you're going to have to prioritize and you're going to have to decide what you are going to schedule and what you're not going to schedule. But everything that's not scheduled is done so intentionally. That is the key word, is that it's done with intention. Right? So we can just clarify that in the expectations right here. If there is no schedule and no work moving forward, that is fine, but must be done by the management with intention when updating the executive. Okay. So that's what we're talking about right here. Does that make sense, Joyce?
Yes.
Can you repeat it, Jay?
So it's line 52. Line 52 under the expectations. That if there's no schedule, no work moving forward, that's perfectly fine, but it must be done with intention, by the management with intention, that the management does not want work moving forward for that particular priority. Right, so an example of that would be under line 36, the quarterly recruitment round. We decided to hold off on regular recruitment, and so no one is working on this, right? And that's done with intention. There is an agreement with the team that there will be no work on recruitment in the recruitment round. Okay. Right? So that's the status update. You're updating you're updating the executive team that there is no work and there's no scheduling happening on the quarterly recruitment round. And that's the status.
Okay.
It's fine. There doesn't have to be a schedule on that. But the managers all agree to that. The management team agrees that there is no work going on that. So as long as there's agreement, right, that there should be no scheduling, no work moving forward on something, then that's perfectly fine. Otherwise, there should be work done to schedule, which should take a few minutes, less than 10 minutes before February 17th.
Okay. So if there is a schedule already, then the status update will be not no upfront pay stub, correct?
Then the status would be, what is the schedule? So for example, line 15, for the 1099s, there's currently a session scheduled for Friday, Saturday, February 10th, 11th. That might be a weekly session, I don't know. But the point is that that's moving forward. So the status update is that the 1099s are moving forward. You know, we're moving forward. The deadline is upcoming. And the plan is to have all the work done. And we have another session on the 10th and 11th. So that's the status update. And there's no upfront pay stop because there's a status update. If there's no status update at all, like for the W8s, W9s, or the partnership extensions, and just no one's even bothered to even consider that priority, then you have upfront pay stop because the management hasn't been completed yet, right? The management team is required to know the current status of the work, which includes the scheduling, right? If you don't know the current status of the scheduling and you haven't made intention of doing that, then that's what the upfront pay stop is for. It's for the management to be forced to know the current status, which includes the scheduling. If the current status of the scheduling is that we don't want to schedule, that's perfectly fine. If we do want to schedule, the scheduling needs to happen. And then you schedule it, right? And you know, once you have the trajectory model, you can schedule it into a trajectory and say, okay, this is prioritized number 3 within this trajectory, right? It's the third sub-trajectory priority within this scheduled trajectory, which happens every Tuesday, Andromeda hour 2. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes. But my question is the status update only per priority, or for example, only one priority is scheduled, so no more upfront pay stub, or it should be scheduled?
Of course, yes, absolutely. Like if the entire, let's say it's December, and we're about to go into the holidays, and everyone's taking breaks, and we're basically there's like 1 or 2 people, and we only want to prioritize one thing, so we have 19 different status updates to do, and we all say, okay, we're only going to focus on the financial priority of the value distribution and the bonus payroll, right? So basically everything else is on hold for the holidays except for the bonus payroll. So the only thing we're scheduling next week is the bonus payroll. Every single other priority, the other 18 priorities, are intentionally being canceled and on hold with no schedule, no work happening them until after the holidays. And so in January, we will be moving forward with them. But in December, we're no longer working on them. That is exactly what the executive team needs to know. Right? So if the management chooses to stop all work on every single priority except for the team bonuses, the executive team needs to know that. It's very important for the executive team to know that. And as far as the status update, that would prevent upfront pay stop because it would meet all the criteria and priorities. If the executive team decides like, whoa, that's not a good idea, right? An issue can be raised, and then it can be raised in the executive team to address the management and be like, okay, this is poor management. We need to rethink this, but there's still no upfront pay stop. It would just be addressed as an issue, not as an upfront pay stop. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, but the point, Joyce, from your question, so we just passed a proposal with consensus to approve the above list of management status update, including 9 general management updates and 10 financial management updates, for a total of 19 management updates up every 2 weeks. Right? Mm-hmm. So from your question, you make me understand that the status update need to happen on all these approved list of 19 priorities. We just
Yeah, the
passed. We
updates, the
just passed a
updates.
proposal with consensus. This is the list, right? Every 2 weeks, we need to update this list and update the statuses and
To the executive team.
to the executive. We need executive. Otherwise, we go on up from pay stop. And the deadline that we passed, I remember you were present also at the voting. It's 3 days before the executive priorities update verification. So, do you understand what we're talking about here?
Yeah, this 19 should have status updates, right? Before every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
my question was, which they answered already. My question was, if only one has a status update, will everything will there be still a front page stop? That's my question.
What
That was
what
my question.
what do you think if we just pass a proposal that says that all 19 manager status updates are required every 2 weeks? What do you think if instead of this 19 we go to Jay and say, hey Jay, here status update, we just updated the status for taxes 1099. All the rest we didn't update the status. What do you think is going to happen? If we only update, I don't know, priority on line 15, all right, this is the only different status from the previous status update. All the rest is the same. We didn't touch it. We didn't do any status update. We didn't do our work. All right, what do you think it's going to happen?
If there are no status updates on all, it will be as a front page stop.
Correct.
Exactly, we did not do the work. We did not do the status update as per policy, so we're going up from pay stop.
So, do you want to go to Moth at all, or are we good here to vote on this, or what?
Yeah, I mean, think think we can move forward. Yeah.
So we don't need to go to Moth.
Yeah, I don't know, Moss. Do you understand it? If Moss wants to has any question, any concerns, I mean,
The proposal is
my
to include the scheduling and the detailed status updates in the 2-week manager status updates, line 70, so that it's clear.
any questions?
No. I think the explanation has been given, and I think I'm okay with how it has been, how the explanation has been, I've received.
Do you have any questions, Moss? Yes or no?
No.
No questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have any concerns?
And then is it? Are we taking break? Because I think
We're voting on this proposal. So if there's no questions and no concerns, then we'll go to objections.
Yes.
Are there any other questions or concerns? Okay, and are there any
No.
objections?
No
Okay.
objection.
No objections.
On this, and so let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. And when we get back, I'm gonna need to get going here pretty soon. I won't have that long, but we'll see.
You have blood draw.
I gotta go to the doctor and get blood draw. So I have about, I don't know, one more segment. So 5-minute break. When we come back, hopefully we'll get to the prime trajectory.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi everyone. I will check in after break.
Okay.